I'd like to welcome all to this evening's regular board meeting of the Lakeview Public Schools Board of Education. Today, Tuesday, July 11, 2023, 7:30 p.m. at the boardroom at the Wheat Educational Campus. Two things for the board this evening. Mr. Miskelly will not be in attendance due to a personal commitment. And at our place this evening is an updated personnel agenda item. Moving on with the agenda, I'd like to call the attention of the board the minutes of the regular meeting of June 20, 2023.
Move for approval. Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Mr. Miners. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Madam Secretary, have we any public communication this evening?
I do not.
Board of Education Administration comments. Anybody from the board have any comments this evening? Other than we are in the first board meeting of the new campaign for 23-24. So new beginning, new opportunities. Look forward to another exciting year. Administration, any comments?
Oh, of course. I want to just take a second. We've had a lot of interview committees over the last several months, and that included staff, central leadership, principals, parents, secretaries, sometimes kids in the secondary environment. And I just want to thank all those folks who have participated in those over the course of the year. Thank those folks who've been on those interview teams, because their decision is always, the finalists who then come to us for a final interview. And that is very seldom reversed. And they usually have, if they can't come to a conclusion on finalists, then we start over. And that happens a couple of times every year. And it's, it's sort of as a reflection of a couple of people who are here tonight. We're going to have approvals for the interpersonnel. You also have, EnviroClean staff working real hard behind the scenes now. Cleaning the buildings top to bottom, and that's not easy when you have summer school occurring at three different levels, elementary, middle school, and high school, and you have construction at 5 sites going on at the same time. So they're very flexible and creative in terms of solving problems to get it done, because August, it's a short summer for us because we start earlier this new calendar year. And that bond work is obviously ongoing, and we're hoping to see Princeton and Ardmore soon to be complete, right, Mike? And the fast action there, and then we've seen a lot of fast action at Greenwood, and that's another place that, the faster we can have that office open and available for start of school or shortly after. Sometimes materials are delayed, and you get trouble with not being able to do those things like you want, but. And then lastly, we had a leadership retreat at the end of June, our whole team together, and I think our principals walked out of there with solid plans ready to open school in August. So, good news.
Awesome.
I'd like to piggyback on what Mr. Paulson was saying and publicly thank all of our staff who are working this summer. I don't think people realize how many people work over the summer to make the end of year wrap up and be prepared for the next year and enroll students, and our tech department who does lots of maintenance to be ready for the next school year, and all of those people who are working our summer school programs, which will make their summers really small, but really prepare students to be ready to kick off the year and start on a solid foot. So I want to thank them. Also, we have been hiring lots of folks, but we still do have positions that are posted online. So I'd encourage folks to continue to keep checking our websites. And then I did want to mention that August 11th is the deadline for school of choice. We are a week earlier because we're starting school a week earlier. So I just want to publicly put that out there. All of the materials are out online. But if people do not have their application turned in by the end of the day on August 11th, we by law are not even able to consider them. So please note that deadline and let people know that may be interested in joining our Lakeview family for the next school year. Thank you.
Awesome. Any other comments? No, not tonight. Anything else from the board? No? Okay. Student recognition.
The Lakeview Public Schools Board of Education is proud to recognize 2 Lakeview High School students for life-saving rescue they assisted with during a physical education class late in the fall of the 22-23 school year. Nathan Ampola and Jude Owen Rescuskit noticed a fellow student having a medical emergency in the pool. They immediately responded by alerting PE teacher Rick Nelson and ASL interpreter Sandra Maloney to the situation. Miss Maloney called 911 while both students assisted Mr. Nelson with helping the student out of the pool. Rescue efforts continued until police and fire responders arrived on the scene. The students' response to the situation happened without hesitation, and their quick thinking and immediate action helped save a fellow student who may have had a very different outcome without their assistance. Both students were recognized earlier this year by St. Clair Shores Police and Fire Department at the city's recognition breakfast in the spring. The fire chief spoke of situational awareness and how rare it is for people to really take notice of their surroundings in today's times when everything is so busy, and even more unique for someone their age. The departments commended these students for not being trained in emergency situations with no expectation to be involved in a rescue, yet immediately responding when someone needed help. Please join us in proudly recognizing these 2 heroic young men, Nathan and Jude, and our Lakeview staff, Rick Nelson and Sandra Maloney, who all did an outstanding job of coming to the immediate aid of a student in need. And I do believe that our students are back here in the back, so if Nathan and Jude would please come forward and be recognized. So come on all the way up. So if you come up, Mr. Dombrowski has something for you.
Yes, you are, I'm sorry, we've never met. Nathan?
Nathan.
Congratulations. Thank you and well done. Also, we have a party gift for you, so thank you for your...
Lakeview garb, huh?
Yes. And Jude, congratulations. Thank you for your quick response. I appreciate you too as well. Thank you
Great
very
job.
much.
Thank you
Well
so
done.
much.
In these crazy times, we don't see enough of that type of activity. So thank you very much for your quick thinking and reactions to this terrible situation. Well done. Okay, appointment of County Board Legislative Committee Representative.
Macomb Intermediate School District will request Lakeview Public Schools Board to appoint a representative and an alternate for the 23-24 County Board Legislative Committee. The County Board Legislative Committee meets the second Tuesday of each month. In 2022-23, the reps were Robin Martin and the alternate was Genevieve Taylor.
Any volunteers?
I was gonna do that. I felt bad about it.
I don't mind. If you want to work dates out with me,
Okay,
I'm happy to do that.
okay,
Early fall is a little tough for me,
okay,
but you can do that.
okay.
Okay, so we have Ms. Taylor and Ms. Martin then. Great, thank you very much. Okay, depository and investment of school funds.
Administration recommends the depository of district funds for the general fund, food service fund, student school activity fund, capital projects fund, bond funds, debt retirement funds, and the internal service fund to be approved at the following institutions: Flagstar Bank, First State Bank, Huntington Bank, Public Financial Management, PFM, or otherwise known as MyLaugh, PNC Bank, and Comerica Bank. Administration also seeks to diversify and take advantage of earnings and recommends investments in certificates of deposits, commercial paper, CDARS, which is a type of certificate of deposit, and other allowable investments according to the school code to be made in the following institutions: Comerica Bank, PNC Bank, Huntington Bank, Public Financial Management, otherwise known as PFM or MyLaugh, Fifth Third Bank, Flagstar Bank, Meter Investments, and Independent Bank.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the depository of district funds to the General Fund, Food Service Fund, Student School Activity Fund, Capital Projects Fund, bond funds, debt retirement funds, and the Internal Service Fund in the above stated financial institutions. Further, the Board of Education approve the investment in certificates of deposit, commercial paper, and other allowable investments according to the school code in the above stated financial institutions as presented.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Ms. Martin. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Non-homestead operating millage resolution.
Tonight, administration is bringing forward a resolution to establish the ballot language and election date for the Lakeview non-homestead operating millage, also known as the Headley Amendment override election. This proposal would replace, restore, and extend the authority of the school district to levy the statutory limit of 18 mills on all property except principal residences and other property exempted by law, which currently expires December 31st, 2024, and will allow the school district to continue to levy the statutory limit of 18 mills in the event of future Headley rollbacks of up to 3 mills. The authorization will allow the school district to continue to receive revenues at the full per-pupil foundation allowance permitted by the state, understanding the maximum levy the district can collect is 18 mills. The last non-homestead tax election was in March 2020 for 4 years, so this is a necessary process in order to maintain the current 18 mill levy that is on non-homestead property. This millage does not affect personal residences. These property taxes generate about $2.6 million in revenue to the school district each year. Administration recommends the board approve the resolution for ballot language seeking to replace, restore, and extend the millage rate up to 21 mills for 20 years, and the election date November 7th, 2023, as presented. And we also have Mr. Jim Crowley here in the audience from Miller Canfield to answer any questions you might have. He joined us in June as well.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve, as discussed and presented, the resolution establishing ballot language and election date for the Headley override election.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Ms. Martin. Discussion on the motion.
What is up to 21? Are we going to do 18 or 21? Does it have to be a definitive number?
So what you end up doing to protect you from this Headley rollback is you authorize, and that's the authorizing of the 21 mills. The max we can levy is 18 mills, but the rollback factor is applied to the 21 mills, so that can keep rolling back, but we still could only levy on non-homestead properties 18 mills. So without having that cushion, if you will, in the authorized millage, if it's not as much of a cushion and the rollback takes place, which we've been seeing because property values are up, that's what puts us in a position to slip below the 18 mills, which we are currently under. The state assumes we're getting 18 mills, though. So that's taken off the top from the foundation allowance that's given to us. But any non-homestead property, the max they can be levied is 18 mills. This is just a protection to allow for the rollback to happen with us maintaining the 18 mills.
The last one we did was for 10 years as well, if I remember correctly.
Prior to the shorter one that we did a 10-year, and then in 2020, we had some dialogue and discussion, and that time, it was thought that we would do a shorter round, but because property values kept increasing, and we did it as a renewal and not a replacement, it only allowed us to have a little half a mil more, and then that was obviously chewed up pretty quickly. So that's why it's recommended to do not the 10 we've done in the past, but do 20 mills, because really this is just a formality that districts are somewhat forced to do in order to keep funding that the state already believes we get anyway. And it doesn't affect any personal residences. So doing 20 years minimizes us having to do elections, which could cost money if the city isn't running election at the same time. And it allows for us to maintain the funding that school districts already are understood or the state believes we are getting.
Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda, item A, advertisements.
Periodically, district business requires Administration to utilize various media and inform the public about advertisements that should be printed and but not limited to Macomb Daily and the local St. Clair Shores newspaper, the Michigan Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs website, and Lakeview Public Schools website at the designation of administration in the following: a notice of budget hearing, invitation for bids, call for redemption of bonds, sale of bonds, other needs on a periodic basis.
Mr. President, I recommend the Board of Education approve advertisements to be printed in the above stated publications.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Minor, support by Ms. Taylor. As this is a consent agenda item, there is no discussion on the motion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Item B, 2023-2024 Legal Counsel.
With its diverse legal needs, Lakeview Public Schools uses the services of several different legal firms. For the 23-24 school year, it's recommended the administration be authorized to continue purchasing legal services on a time and materials basis from the law firms listed with demonstrated expertise in the area of consultation.
Mr. President, I recommend that the Board of Education authorizes the administration to purchase legal services as appropriate from the list of approved firms on a time and material basis during the 2023-24 school year.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Martin, support by Mr. Bear. As this again is a consent agenda item, there is no discussion on the motion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item C, document signatory designees 2023-2024.
Various administrative staff members are required to submit reports, file documents, and conduct business on the district's behalf. Administration recommends the board approve the following listed document designees to cover the following areas: master agreements and riders, employee contracts, scholarship fund and payroll, 125 plan checks, applications and grants, established line of credit, routine reports and memberships, titles and deeds, routine reports with the Department of Ed, wire transfers, and purchase service vendor contracts, as noted.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the signatory designees as presented.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Ms. Martin. Again, as this is a consent agenda item, there is no discussion on the motion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Under general, item A, canine explosive and narcotics canine detection services bid.
Tonight, administration brings forward a recommendation for contract for canine explosive and narcotics detection services to Zebra Canine. This project will be funded through state school safety grant funding. In late January, administration, including the high school administrative team, observed a demonstration of a canine that was trained to detect explosives. The demonstration was conducted in the Lakeview High School Media Center. Later in the spring, the idea of contracting the services of canines to detect firearms, explosives, and narcotics on site during the school year was discussed further with the entire Lakeview leadership team. This preventive safety service is similar to what the public might encounter at airports or other large events at public points of entry to a facility. In June, a request for a proposal was advertised and bidders were solicited. Law and district policy requires 4 companies showed interest. 2 companies responded to Lakeview's Canine Detection Services RFP. Of the bid responses, Zebra Canine submitted the low bid. A post-bid interview was conducted with the president and CEO of Zebra Canine, and all questions were answered satisfactorily. Lakeview requested explosive and weapons detection services to be available on a daily basis throughout the school year. Lakeview also requested narcotics detection services to be available up to 30 school days per year. Beyond the school day, canine services were also requested for a variety of after-school events, such as sports, concerts, public meetings, or graduation, etc. Canine detection includes a trained handler with experience. The agreement would operate at an hourly cost, $65 per hour, billed monthly. Based on the school calendar and events anticipated, administration calculates the cost for daily explosive and weapon detection canine services for 23-24 to be approximately $93,000. Administration calculates the cost for narcotics detection canine services to be used on select dates throughout the year at approximately $15,000. Therefore, adding in special events for the annual cost to Zebra Canine for both use of both types of canine services would be between $110,000 and $115,000 annually. Pricing provided by Zebra K-9 for 24-25 school year would be not increased as this bid is a 2-year request. Administration completed background and reference checks on Zebra K-9, all of which came back positive. Based on the pricing submitted and affirmative background check, administration has determined that Zebra K-9 is the lowest qualified bidder. Therefore, administration is recommending award a contract to Zebra K-9 for 23-24 and 24-25 school years at a cost of approximately $110,000 to $115,000 annually. Mr. Gaitis from the company, the president and CEO, is here, and he has a couple of reps with him. And we may even have a visitor beyond our human staff. I think you want to do a motion.
Yep.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve Zebra K-9 to provide K-9 detection services for the 2023-24 and 2024-25 school years at an annual cost of approximately $110,000 to $115,000.
I was gonna say, can we maybe file to maybe do more days of narcotic days and increase that? File a motion to increase the narcotic days instead of 30, maybe to 60, maybe once a week? Anyone second that?
Mr. Beer?
I don't have a problem with that.
Mr. Miners?
I think.
I see more,
how that
I'm
would-
sorry, I just see more of a, not that I'm afraid of, of course I'm afraid of bombs, guns, but I think maybe a little more hit home, with maybe more narcotic days.
Well, we need to make sure that we've got support first.
Yep.
Well, I guess I would ask about how that would affect the costs.
Well, it was $65 an hour is what they stated in the.
Another 15,000,
So it would just, that would. it would
roughly, yeah.
just Increase based on the hourly rate, okay.
Just so you folks know, there is grant,
Are you in concurrence with the friendly request change to 60 days instead of 30?
Yeah,
Okay, now we'll go ahead with discussion.
Do we have support on the original?
I supported the original.
Yeah, they both agreed to it.
Right to you. The question is, with respect to the state safety grant funding, how are we allowed to use that money? Is this what we've come up to, that where we want to spend the money? And is any other money coming out of the general fund?
so the safety grant we currently are operating under is Section 97. It was pretty loose as far as the allowability. They had a line item that says, and any other thing that promotes safety for students and staff of the school district. So it definitely fits within the allowability. We had over $400,000 of Section 97 grant funding, bless you, in the current year that we're going to carry over to the following year. It has to be used up next year. So this is about 25% of the allocation, and we've had discussions with the administrative team, and this is one of the areas that was primarily looked at as a big item that was a good fit for our safety grant. That being said, we've recently heard from the governor that next year, like this 23-24 year, they're getting rid of the Section 97, if we will, but they're baking it into 31AA funding is what they're calling it for mental health, and they're including safety as an allowability. So we know that we've got, for sure, 2 years of coverage to cover this cost, and then if 31AA, which is for mental health and welfare, now safety, if it continues, because right now the state has quite a bit of monies, as we're hearing in the funding, that it could be something that we could continue beyond that. But for sure, we know that for 2 years, we have grant monies that would cover the cost, and it would not have any effect on the general fund itself, per se.
And in addition to that, it wasn't per se the additional conversation, but security cameras are being funded with some of this, not all of them, but some of those.
The new doors on the doors.
Additional radios that staff can carry with them, and then the door exits for the gyms. Those are just a few of the items. There's a lot of smaller ones, but those are the bigger ticket ones.
Quick question to Mrs. Conan. You mentioned at the end of what you just said that it will cover the costs, or, this funding will cover the costs for 2 years. Is that the cost that is on what we have at our place now, or any cost reasonably within that, close to that range?
Specifically related to the canine dogs or other expenses?
I suppose.
So if we added 15,000 more for the 60 days, is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean, is it really an adverse effect, or is it?
No, because like I said, we've got over 400,000, so this is about a little over 25% of the allocation. Ms. Van Pernen working with technology, she was kind of thinking with the cameras and the things that Mr. Paulson just spoke of would be about 75,000. We know the doors we're bringing forward, so we still technically have extra of this 97 section money that we really need to have spent by June 30th, 2024. So there is plenty, if you will, to cover this expenditure. And then 31AA into the next school year, 24, 25, they're baking in the safety in that, and that's quite a large sum of money, to be honest with you, that we got this year as well, in the 22, 23 year, that I'm gonna have to carry over into the next year. So it's one of those kind of rolling, time clocks, so it's definitely allowable. And if things stay on the trajectory that we're on right now, I would not be surprised if we would have funds going into even the 25, 26 year. So it's hard to believe we're that far into the 20s.
And I'll also mention, Mr. Aisha, if you're like formally amending the motion, I'm personally fine with 60, but if we're doing it once a week, I suppose it wouldn't be 60, it would be a little bit less, but, because I don't know how many years are in the actual, or weeks are actually in the school year, but.
What would happen is we would front-load a lot of narcotics time. The idea is not to, spread it out through the whole year. We're going to do a lot of front-load, and then you don't know when we're coming next. That's the idea of preventing, if you will. And then, the choosing the right, most of that's going to be middle school, high school. So more time's going to be spent with those, obviously, than elementary in certain circumstances, so.
And I had another question. Is the handler armed weapon?
No.
No? No, okay. Wasn't sure if they come across a situation where there is a narcotics or bomb, just radio it in, or I wasn't sure.
Well, and the dogs react differently. Narcotics dogs are more of a reaction to the situation, and the explosive dog will stop and sit. I mean, so they're different how they operate.
I do have a couple questions for the handler. Just like with respect to, so if we have a dog here on a daily basis for weapon detection, does this mean now that, I guess this would be a administrative and handler, does this mean that every student has to come in the exact same door every morning and go by the dog? And then everybody who's coming in late, do they go by the dog? How does the process work?
That's not what we would have intended. Yeah, we have more entry and, a couple of doors at the high school as an example. So we're probably going to use the dog in that hallway, not say walk through this door and try to funnel 12, 14, 1,500 kids through one door in, 10 minutes or 15 minutes. That's just not realistic. That's part of the reason why, the idea of, the metal detectors, that's not particularly viable, and it doesn't solve the problem of, I'll just prop the door open in the back when I get into school at 7:30 and my friend can come in the back, right? This is intended to be in and available all day long at hallways, at lockers, at, a lunchroom or whatnot. So it's a little bit different. It's more of preventive than it is let's catch you, but it's going to end up catching somebody, right?
I don't know. I mean, that's why I'm asking.
Different from a football game gate.
I
Where
mean,
we're gonna
if,
have them at one of the gates, unless we're gonna get three, we're not gonna have three at three gates.
right.
But the idea that it could be at a gate, or could be at a door, or I could be sniffing my locker, right? That's the idea behind preventing.
So what is the range that they have? I mean, if you have that many kids going through that little area, what is the range that the dog has?
You wanna offer a response to the way they can detect? Sure, please.
Sure. Please.
Thank you. My name is Greg Guytis. I'm the president and CEO of K9. This is Ricky too. He's our master trainer. Just a little background real quickly on Rick. 30 years Machine State Police, 25 with the K9 unit. When he retired, he was lieutenant of the K9 unit. So specifically to the earlier questions, we will serve at the discretion of either Superintendent Paulson on a day-to-day basis or the principal as far as where we are, which door, when. something that we highly recommend is that it's inconsistent. So it's not the same every day where students get used to that, right? So we advocate that we change it up and more inconsistent. As far as the distance, I'll let Rick speak to that specifically, but the dogs are to detect odor, right? And that odor, go ahead. I'll let you use it.
We train the dogs to be obedient to odor. So and we'll show you on the demonstration when the dog actually, whoa, he's got odor, you'll see a head snap, it'll be pretty obvious to you, but it's also very, very quickly. The dog will work from the moment it detects odor to the source, put its nose nearly on it or on it, and then they just sit real quiet.
And that's for a weapon detection or an explosive detection dog, right? Okay.
Narcotics, it works the same way.
But they're a little more alert, right? Barking?
No, they'll be quiet dogs.
Okay.
And it's called a passive indication, what the dog
Okay.
does. When it finds the odor, it knows it's that trained odor, put their nose on it to tell you, hey, it's right here, boom, they sit.
And it starts out with a scent cone, which is very wide, right? And air movement, the dog is, as Rick said, will continue to work to the strongest point of that source.
What I do is I use the example, at least I'm in a crowd now that everybody knows who Charlie Brown is.
Thanks.
Let me know who Pigpen is.
Yes.
That's how that odor looks to the dog. It's sitting there and it's just, the dog will catch the odor, work from that moment when it gets the odor, finds the odor, alerts the, and it'll work to source.
Okay, follow-up question then. Dog senses it, sits down, or does whatever it does, and it's the front of a locker. What's the next step?
So the next step is.
Bomb squad?
We follow the school's protocol.
Okay,
And so our handler will become part of your security team.
okay,
And we will blend in with what your own security protocol would be.
okay. Which would be what, law enforcement, et cetera?
Are you talking explosive?
Well, that's what they're talking to right now,
Okay,
correct?
then, yeah.
Explosives? Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna contact police, we're gonna start identify what we think we can deal with, right? Make no assumptions, I guess.
Best thing to do is contact local law enforcement then that you've had alert by a dog. Because if it's a gun, you can open it,
Yes,
but you don't know.
yeah, you know what's behind it.
Yeah, so if it's an explosive, by you opening it, you could detonate it.
Hence my question, bomb squad, we don't
Bomb
know.
squad would come, they would execute it. Lockers, you could be, because they're not airtight. And you say the dog alerts, say the center locker, you take the other two on it too. They would come in, they would x-ray it, determine what it is, and then, they do their thing, bomb checks. They probably have a robot come in and work it that way.
Yeah, you may recall years ago, we had an incident at the high school with a lunch bag that was suspicious, and MSP came out, they brought the dogs out, they had the robot go down there. It was an interesting process seeing what they did. Turned out to be somebody's lunch, but better to be safe than sorry. Absolutely, absolutely.
What's the error rate on the dogs?
We train constantly with the dog. I can't tell you that, sit here that the dog can never be wrong. You could have a kid that was shooting all weekend long on his property, there's residue left in that bag, and the dog could alert on it, to show that there's nothing there. But with a little bit of background on it and find out where this bag's been, the kid might say, well, I had bullets in there all weekend long. So is the dog wrong? No, just like the dog could alert on a locker and there's nothing but firecrackers in there. But that is an explosive odor.
Okay. And then with switching over to like the random with the drug dog, so obviously marijuana is now legal in the state of Michigan, not for somebody who's in high school, but say a parent is smoking around their child and they come to school and their jacket is saturated in the smell of marijuana, now they're going to be in tune to that, correct? So, I mean,
Genevieve, that already happens.
yeah, so I
You would be
mean,
shocked at how many conversations have to be had by a principal and a teacher with the parents of their kids' reek of marijuana smell.
so how much interruption is it in our school? Does the benefit outweigh the interruption?
We're not ignoring it.
Okay,
I mean, the idea that we have a hit of something, we're not ignoring it. We're gonna deal with it, and if it's nothing because it's their coat, and they claim that, that my parents got medical marijuana and I can't, well, we're gonna deal with that in a different way. They're gonna have to deal with some sort of counseling support to say, here's how you need to come to school. And if your parent needs to get your clothes washed in such a way that they're not gonna smell when you get here, that's gonna be what we expect.
I don't think we can do that on a medical marijuana.
A kid can't be okay coming to school stinking like marijuana. We
But
can
if
put
it's
this-
their
we can put
medical
the-
necessity under the parent, I don't know if we can interrupt with that.
We can have that kid not smell when they show up at school.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
The other part with the disruption part that I think is a little bit different is we're used to the drug dogs that are very loud, and that's not what would be here. As you were saying, they quietly spot. So it's not going to be, I think, as disruptive as what we would think is if it were one of the dogs that was barking, right?
Different law for narcotics stuff.
Now, will we have the same dog continuously, or will it be a different dog and a different trainer? And we'll have the same trainer as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other comments?
This is more for administration. So in regards to the explosive and weapon detection program, what would a tentative schedule be? I mean, I know you probably don't have definitive information yet,
I
but,
don't think we want to go public with that here.
okay. But like,
It'd be a bad choice.
but is it, when we talk percentage-wise, is it going to be heavily used for events as opposed to daily school, or no?
No, your approval has got every day of the year for explosive, 180 plus events. And then 30, now 60, if it goes forward for narcotics on a daily basis, plus events.
And then is there a required minimum that we need to spend in a year time period?
There's not a required minimum from the standpoint of the grant.
Okay,
That's what-
but from our contract.
That wasn't specified.
So like
The
if we,
expectation is we're going to use this number of days because we're going to service every day. Not every hour of every day, because if we have an early release, and they understand the schedule, because it was part of the bid documents, which you didn't have all of, but there are days where we have early release or half days of school, so there's, I assumed 180 times 7.5 for that dollar amount, and it's less than that in reality, I think.
I'd like to see what the dog does. I know they hit something, and I'd like to see it.
Let's take action.
I mean, we're here, right? Can we see the dog?
Absolutely.
Do we need to vote on this first, or?
Well, no, we'll let them bring the dog in.
It's
Thanks,
the
Dan.
best part.
Yeah, just take, so this is Gator, he's a 1-year-old lab. He's he's pretty high drive, so I don't want to step on the turn bus, but the ones that are going to be in school are probably going to be a little lower key than this particular one. I know you have the interest that they're going to, So, and I don't know where this is, so is that off limits, Max? Should I stay out of there?
Yeah,
Because it looks like there's expensive stuff back there.
yeah, we won't go over that.
Yeah.
And the camera for the public is right in here.
And this is just the explosive demonstration, not the narcotics one, because you won't find that narcotics hit here at all.
Yeah.
Nobody light them up.
Unlike the White House, is that what you're suggesting there, Mr. President?
I don't know if you can stand up and kind of lean over. There's not a whole lot of places to hide, so I picked this tile right in front of here.
Oh, okay.
And it's just a bag of spent shell casings. Does everybody know what that is? The
Yes.
bullets, the metal part to it. So there's very little odor in there, but there's probably, I don't know, 3 dozen bullet casings in there at least. You'll see the dog come in. Normally, we work the dog from left to right and then reverse it and then do the center. But you may see the dog all of a sudden, whoa, he's got odor, and he's gonna go to it. Any questions?
I think the reference somebody made at one of the dialogues we had, the nature of their sensitivity in comparison to a human.
Yes.
Always.
So the analogy that we used, I think this is what you're referring to, Superintendent, is we as humans can smell a teaspoon of sugar in a cup of coffee. These canines can smell that same teaspoon of sugar in the water that fills 2 Olympic-sized pools. So their olfactory is like 6 times greater than humans. And so what we can't see, they can detect. And that's the beauty of what we're doing here and the forward thinking of the district. And the other big piece of it is it's a proactive deterrent that's here all the time. And so it becomes part of the fabric, and the students and the staff really start to build a relationship with that canine team.
And its appearance will be random then. It won't be the same way all the time.
Right.
Okay, if everybody would kind of like to step and lean over so you can see. And if anybody in the audience here wants to step up this way, you're more than welcome.
Going left, easy going left to right. We're gonna go this way. Okay? David? David, sit. Find it.
The dog learns when the harness goes on him, it's time to go to work.
He hasn't been in Carl's office, has he?
Oh, I wasn't supposed to bring that gun.
He's looking for that odor, so he gets his paycheck. The paycheck is the ball.
Ball. Yeah, the ball's always the reward.
Just because I know this dog, I know he's an odor right now.
This actually is a tough find for the dog, because like I described Pigpen, you got that odor going off, but what do you got here? It's spreading out.
Yeah.
You came around here, worked back, you came all the way to this corner, and you probably didn't know, I don't know if you did, it got to a little whoop, then you worked back to it, and you got vents here that's blowing it out loud.
I like it.
Any questions? And the narcotics dogs work the same way, except the narcotics dog, the handler will probably spend more time detailing things that, you know, you can take such a small amount of marijuana and say hide it in a outlet or.
A Bible.
Pardon me?
A Bible.
Bible.
I didn't hear you.
He said a Bible.
Inside joke.
But you spend a little bit more time detailing, pointing out to the dog the check areas. With an explosive or a firearm, you know, it's sad to say that if someone is gonna do damage to the school, you're gonna use quite a bit of explosive. You know, you're gonna look at probably something, you know, neighborhood of 1 to 10 pounds.
Yeah, that speaks to a bomb type situation, but if you're looking for a kid bringing in a gun,
It's a little tougher because it's smaller amount.
right?
So these are spent cases,
Yes.
but it can smell regular cases without, that aren't spent?
Sure.
And so say a gun was not used, and maybe the person bought the ammunition in on one day, got it in, and then brought in a gun that was not ever used before, will it be able to smell that gun?
Yes.
Okay.
We train the dog on all the components of a gun and different cleaning aids that you use in the gun. This is the only time I've been doing this a long time. When we first started doing this, we called it a salad of odor. And we used to put 4 or 5 different odors in one and then pull them out. And they used to think it used to go faster. Well, it didn't. And you don't want the dog to say in a salad of odor, he alerts to the tomatoes. If you take those tomatoes away, he might just walk on it. Oh, I don't smell a tomato in there. I got all these little odors, but tomato's not there, so I don't sit. We train the firearm dogs on slides of the gun, the barrels, the cleaning solutions. Even in the bag, I may have some of the little patches for cleaning your gun, and it has gun oil on it, and the solution to clean it.
Okay.
So it is, for explosives, it is that big salad odor.
You want to grab those?
You can't leave them overnight.
Biscuits instead of a bowl.
Yeah.
Anybody want, that doesn't have an idea what they are?
I think the two guys in front of you are the most familiar.
I wouldn't be familiar, so
You wouldn't be?
I would not be.
I'll just take one out, you can all pass it around.
Sniff it. There you go.
Smell metal?
I wouldn't be a good.
You would not, dog?
You wouldn't hurt.
Lemon lavender.
Yeah, I smell them.
Very, very little odor.
Biscuit.
Any troublemakers?
Is that something?
I know my nose is not a dog's nose.
Hardly any odor there.
Smells musky.
Oh, I've seen that. Thanks.
You can keep that.
Just don't take it into the school.
Then he's gonna get stopped on the way home. What is that for?
Don't leave it in your pocket when you go to the airport either.
Usually when I do a demo with my dog and he's got that old slimy old tennis ball, then you throw it in the crowd.
Any other questions for us?
So, like, how would that work? Like, so the dogs at school, when everyone's coming into school and the kids are going past and they recognize the smell, or am I not getting how they're utilized? I mean, how would the dogs be utilized?
Well, you
in a
could
regular
see that
school
happening.
day?
You could see them passing through the media center or walking down the locker lines or
Being in the lunchroom?
a lot of different places.
You know, in some of our other schools, they work at where when all the students are in class, they'll even come in classes while they have all their backpacks sitting on the ground and they run through, go to the next class, they jump around to different classes. Some of them put all the backpacks out in the hallway, so you separate that student from the bag, which I like the idea because you've separated him from if there's a weapon in there. And the dog will find it while he's still in class.
And that's okay legally for us to require?
We've done that with the narc dogs from state police and county when we've done that. Bring their bags out in the hall, have the kids go on the opposite side of the hall, and the dogs hit the bags and then pass in front of the kids. And you don't do every kid in the school. You
Right.
do, so many classrooms or something.
Right.
And so that could become a normal course of activity here and there.
Okay.
Not so much of a disruption to class time,
Mm-hmm.
but
So the hope is that because it's there, that it's in their mind, that they know that there could be random checks,
don't take the
basically.
chance.
A deterrent more than.
It's a visible deterrent.
And with this setup, that I like about it is they're there every day. So a student knows it's not just gonna be randomly they come back.
Right.
They're gonna be there every single day, so, and they don't
won't
know.
know if it's an explosive dog or a drug sniffing dog
Not
either,
necessarily, right.
right?
Well, they
Figure it out.
Good job.
Because we've had cases where one of our clients had a dog in there and all the kids for the first few weeks, they didn't know what it was. And they would just tell them it was a detection dog. Well, one of the kids was sitting in the principal's office and they walked by with the dog and he had marijuana in his pocket. He told everybody, well, it's not a drug dog. And they walked right by him.
I have a question, well, more so, my understanding through discussions with Mr. Paulson and the other leadership team is these dogs they're not only a service dog, they can actually be pet if it's talked to the handler, or would the expectation be that the kids aren't petting the dog or any staff or whatnot?
Well, first of all, you're paying for a dog to detect explosives and narcotics. But if the dog isn't working at the time, you have to ask the handler. Instead of everybody just run. I mean, at first, when the dog comes in school, everybody wants to pet the dog. And I don't have a problem with that if they ask the handler.
So the recommendation is the first couple days, it's just to get to know the handler and the dog, and so it's accessible to the students. Students can pet it, get to know it, and then, we'll decide with administration, is that day 3, is that day 4, that now we're normal protocol, and you have to ask the handler if it's okay. But we do want to give the students the opportunity to become familiar with the dog and to be friendly, right? To start to build a relationship. So, but it's always at the handler's discretion.
You'll see some of the dogs that they learn, like some of the hospital dogs. They know which nurse is giving treats. And they'll get on that hallway and they just barrel right down to their room because they know there's a treat sitting.
That would be my office.
Now, how often do you run into situations where a child is allergic to dogs?
I'm not aware of any of them so far. But
Okay.
it's very well. I mean, you're going to have students and teachers, any staff here could be afraid of dogs too. And it's nothing wrong to say, I'm afraid of a dog.
We ask that those situations are brought to the handler's attention, that, identify the student, identify the teacher, the administrator, and then they'll honor that, right? They will avoid those situations.
Yeah, that's all part of the implementation plan. Let people inform us of those things.
Does that include parents?
With respect to the handlers, how much experience do they have? I mean, I know you have experience, amazing experience level, but with respect to your handlers, what kind of program do they go through? I saw something that they meet and do training 4 hours a week. Is that a normal? Did I read it incorrectly? I mean, maybe
No,
you
they
could
go
elaborate a
through
little bit on that.
Normally,
I'll address this.
you'll address it? Okay.
So, our handlers, we try to hire ex-military, ex-law enforcement, and if they don't have that experience, they participate in a National Association of School Resource Officers, so they get certified through that organization. And then to your point, they train weekly, they're required to train weekly with Rick, 4 hours a week to maintain their certification. So, as you mentioned earlier, that's completely ongoing.
How many dogs do you have in your arsenal, if you will? Meaning, how big is the organization?
We have a dozen,
Okay.
and we have a relationship with Johns Hopkins University. We were part of when we were breeding dogs, we were part of the breeding consortium. Us and 3 other organizations, all the university and a couple of the breeders. And so we still have a relationship with them. That's where all of our dogs that we deploy are American bred labs and shepherds. So we still have those relationships as our sources of dogs.
Cool. Any other comments, questions? Mike?
Do you already have the dogs picked out that you'll be using for our school? And if so, what are the breeds?
We do, and the firearm explosive detection dog is the lab, and the narcotics dog is a shepherd.
Okay. Any other comments?
One for administration. Did you talk to our liaison officer, and is he?
Yeah, they're
He's in-
aware.
okay.
They're aware, yep.
Okay. Hearing no more questions, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Awesome. Thank you for coming out this evening, for your time and your demonstration. Perfect, thank you. Okay, next we have is personnel changes in the personnel, and the updated agenda item is at our places.
Tonight, administration is bringing forward the following changes in personnel since the last presentation to the Board of Education on June 20th. New hires: Sarah Maroney, Jefferson Middle School Special Education Teacher; Sarah Perez, Greenwood Elementary School Teacher; Nicole Isaac, District Special Education Social Worker. Resignations: Jennifer Ferry, Wheat Preschool Teacher; Joseph Trobow, Principal, our Princeton Elementary School Teacher; Alicia Vitale, Wheat Preschool Co-op; Sarah Perez, District Elementary Interventionist. Fall Sports Athletic Coordinator John Carr; Jefferson Middle School 8th Grade Washington Trip 2022-23. That should be 23-24. So I apologize about that. Catherine Culhane, Trip Coordinator. Schedule B, Returning Coach and Sponsor, Mike DeVito, Lakeview High School Powerlifting Sponsor. Schedule B, New Coach and Sponsor, Melissa Hazenleader, Lakeview High School Softball Girls 9th Grade Coach. Schedule B, Returning Coach and Sponsors as listed. And Schedule B, New Coach and Sponsor, Sarah Justowis, Lakeview High School Volleyball 9th Grade Coach.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the changes in personnel as presented.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Ms. Martin. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those.
Oh,
Mr. Bear.
I have a question.
Mike?
Yes, I'm curious, the resignations, why the August 11th date? If somebody's leaving, what, why put it off?
Their contract is August 15th through August 14th.
Okay,
So when they've worked this past school year, they have the right to go all the way through August 14th,
okay.
because that's still considered this past
All right.
year's current year.
I thought that the end of the school year was when the kids got out and,
It is not. So they have, their contract goes through that piece. So as long as it's before August 15th, because they would need to be back reporting for the next school year if they're past that date.
okay, thank you.
Ms. Taylor?
I just was curious, and now I'm reading and it says 22, 23. Does that mean that we're paying him for the last year, or?
Yes, there are some folks who did not get through in the paperwork for some of the coach
Okay.
sponsors.
And then I have a question. Is the fall sports athletic coordinator a normal thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
so
we have
that's-
an athletic coordinator, and we've split it into fall and spring, so we divided it up so that 2 different people could be doing those.
Okay,
those roles.
and that's put out like as, like all the coaches can put in for it, or how does it work? Okay.
Yep, we post it. Yeah.
All right. And I'm just really sad that Mr. Trobow left. I think he was a great teacher, and I hope we find just a great replacement for him.
Yeah, he is fabulous, and I, here in Lakeview, we support people's professional growth, and he is moving on to take a principal role, so we're excited for him as much as
It
we're
is
sad
good,
for
yes.
ourselves. Yes,
And related to his date of exit, he's doing summer school elementary for us right now.
yes.
Of course he
That
is.
on 11th.
Yes, yes.
I just wanted to add, Coach DeVito, he was my football coach in powerlifting when I was
Ah.
great guy. He's a really great guy, very memorable.
Very
My daughter's coach as well, so.
Ah,
yeah.
very nice.
I was very happy to see that we're taking care of him.
Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Have we any people in the audience
We
today?
do, we do. We have Sarah Maroney, who's here to join us. She has been out there, and I'm going to just say a couple things about you, and then we'll give you a chance to stand up. So Sarah is coming to us. She has her bachelor's in elementary education from Wayne State University. She has her master's of education with a special education focus from Wayne State as well. She comes to us, she is currently, or was this past year, a special education teacher in Centerline, and has gone through, as our board knows, a rigorous process to be here this evening. And our team is very excited about having her join us, and we're so happy to have you here tonight and to be able to meet the board and our community here, and we welcome you. And that's all we have here for this evening.
Welcome aboard to the Lakeview family. All right, moving on to business. Item A, bid pack number 8, change order Greenwood Elementary gym egress door.
This evening it is recommended that the Board of Education consider a change order related to an egress door installation at Greenwood Elementary School's gym, which is to be funded from the state safety grant funding, not bond funds. Several weeks ago, administration began discussions about the installation of a new egress door from the gymnasium in an effort to assist with immediate exit from the building without requiring occupants of that space to re-enter the adjacent hallway to exit the building. Because latchkey services are often utilizing this space before and after school, an exterior door within the gym can also serve as an access point for parent pickup and drop-off, improving overall safety and security of the building in this program. Administration directed Partners in Architecture and Barton Mallow Builders to develop a design and solicit quotes from several current contractors working on the district bond projects to install this door. With this project, there are 4 different kinds of contractors who would be required to perform the work in their respective trade. Multiple vendors in each trade provided quotes, with several also utilizing bid hourly or unit pricing from the bond projects. Partners in Architecture and Barton Mallow Builders reviewed and approved the solution as within market conditions. Therefore, administration recommends approval of the increase in contract through change order to Silverado Construction for $3,040 for the masonry for door opening, B&B Glazing for $13,137.81 for door and glass, Simon Companies for $8,898 for the foundation for the stoop and helical piers, and Nelson Ironworks for $2,124 for the beam plate. The total amount of this change order is $27,199.81 and would be paid utilizing state safety grant funding.
Mr. President, I recommend that the Board of Education approve the change order and the contract increase to Silverado Construction for $3,040, B&B Glazing for $13,137.81. Simone Company is for $8,898, and Nelson Ironworks for $2,124, for a grand total of $27,199.81 as presented.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Taylor, support by Mr. Bear. Discussion on the motion.
We do have our rep from Barton out here tonight, Mike McKay, if you have any questions about it.
No questions? All right. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. President, seeing no more business before this board, I motion to adjourn.
And we have a motion by Mr. Bear, support by Ms. Martin for adjournment. I do have one quick question. I know it was out there and it's kind of in the wind. Do you know if anything's been solidified as far as the golf outing this summer for the high school athletics or the district athletic department? I was going to ask Mr. Paul or Zaborowski about it tonight, and I see he's not here.
I don't have detail on that, no.
Okay. Cool. All right. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned at 8:35.
I was thinking the same thing earlier.
And we asked a lot of questions.
I made plans in like August 19th or something, and that seems like